Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry the Dark Wolf Hicks, and I, of course, am the host of the Dark Wolf's Den Show here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, and it is my sad duty to report this evening the loss of a fellow conservative talk show radio host, Mr. Rush Limbaugh, has lost his battle with cancer, passing away today at the age of 70. A definite loss to the country, somebody that I grew up listening to. I didn't always agree with things that he said, but I always respected the fact that he said what he felt and he spoke his mind and wasn't afraid to use his platform to try to change things for the better. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rush Limbaugh, fellow conservative talk show radio host, has passed away once again at the age of 70 today, February 17th, 2021. If everybody wouldn't mind joining me for a moment and putting a flame emoji in the chat as this next song plays in honor as a representation of the freedom flame of Ripon Common Sense Radio in Ripon, Wisconsin, our home base. We would very, very much appreciate it, guys. Thanks, guys. I see all those flame emojis over there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in the wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.
Today in history.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio. At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
This is My Life DIY, and
hi, this is JoJo.
Hi, my name is Ash.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we are broadcasting live worldwide from a secret mountain cave hidden high up in the beautifully snow-covered peaks of the Idaho mountains. That's right. We're ripping through the electromagnetic soup, tearing through the atmosphere, and tunneling away into your radio like a quantum particle. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are talking about precognitions and premonitions. That's right. There's a blurred line between the two, but there is still a line there. We're going to go over a lot of case files and all the things these case files have in common, and then we're going to see what science has to say on the subject. And you might actually be very surprised. I know, I was. So stick around for all that and more, ladies and gentlemen. But first, today in history. On this day in 1943, New York Yankees number 5, the great Mr. Joe DiMaggio, enlists in the U.S. Army. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, that is on this day in 1943. And that is today's Today in History. The great Joe DiMaggio, ladies and gentlemen, a true patriot of history. And you gotta love these todays in history, you know. You learn so much fun stuff, and there's been so much happen throughout history, both good and bad, from Joe DiMaggio joining the Army, which was absolutely a great thing, to things like disasters, right? And for every disaster, there's somebody who is claimed to have a premonition or a precognitive notion of the event. Now, we need to define some terms before we go any further. What is precognition? This is the, quote, paranormal phenomenon, end quote, that there is no scientific accepted basis for, and it's a claimed psychic ability to see events in the future. Precognition, the ability to see events usually through dreams. Now, what is a premonition? What is the difference, right? A premonition is previous notice or warning, anticipation of an event without conscious reason or presentiment. So in one definition, it's widely accepted. In the other definition, it's pseudoscience, and we'll learn more about that in the second half and whether or not it really is pseudoscience. But I mentioned a moment ago, there's been many disasters throughout history, and we're going to go over a couple of these that were actually had premonitions from people before the disaster, sometimes large amounts of people that saved their lives. First up, we've all heard of the Titanic. That's a pretty famous story that I'm sure everyone has heard of. Well, there were those that may have known about the accident before the boat ever left port. And I don't mean by conspiring, I mean by premonition.
The Titanic. A frightful series of misfortunes went before the sinking of the RMS Titanic. The sea liner almost collided into a ship as it hauled out of the harbor in Southampton. Some said a cat in her litter left the boat, which was thought to be an indication of bad luck. After the sinking, individuals created rumors that a cursed mummy was on board. Others asserted a champagne bottle failed to break at the ship's christening. These stories and numerous more have since been debunked.
And of course, around any big event, there's going to be a small amount of rumor and disinformation, but that doesn't discount the real information that does come out, right?
Numerous individuals claim to have foretold the sinking through premonitions, and we can't dismiss them all as more stories made up after the fact. Some of these people actually refused to board the ship, likely saving their own lives. Annie Ward was a housekeeper who purchased the most lavish suite on the Titanic and survived the sinking. She declined to board the boat, subsequent to having a premonition that something terrible would happen amid the first venture.
And that is but one of many stories, much the very same. There's another story of a guy that was walking on his way to board the boat when he kept hearing a voice in his head saying, "Turn around or you will surely die." and he did turn around and go back home, much to the dismay of the people who had bought and gifted him the ticket. However, upon learning of the fate of the Titanic, of course, they were very much happy that he had happened to have this premonition. Try saying that 5 times fast, right? Anyway, that's but two of many, like I said, stories of the Titanic. But the Titanic is not the only thing that has had premonition events about it. There are things as big as world wars that have had premonitions.
World War I. Carl Jung's studies into psychoanalysis involved interpreting others' dreams, but in 1914, he had some significant dreams of his own.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, no other than one of my favorite people, Mr. Carl Jung.
He saw the whole sea turn to blood, with multitudes of bodies drowning in yellow waves. Then he saw a cold wave freeze an entire country, killing everyone. Jung saw this as a premonition of war, and he thought further dreams of floods, water stretching from the Alps to the North Sea, represented the horrible trenches that soldiers were forced to endure. He began his last dream in June 1914. Just over a month later, on August 1st, World War I began.
And it's interesting that Jung, a person that had interpreted dreams for quite a while in his study and in his practice, had actually been interpreting these dreams to mean war. And within a month, or a little over a month of the last dream, war itself broke out. The very first World War, nonetheless. So, yeah, that is nothing short of wow factor for me. And it, like I said, disaster seems to be the overlying theme here in all of these. There's really no other specifics that I've heard so far that would match across all these case files, except for the fact that it definitely could have changed their life either way. And it could come down to these time-locked events, once again, which you've heard me talk about quite a bit. One of my own theories of the time-locked events. But I won't get into that. I'm sure you guys have heard me ramble enough about time-locked events, at least for the moment. But could premonitions and precognitions be a glimpse of these events? Or what is stopping us from being part of these events? Like, could that be one of the ways that reality itself guides us to or away from the areas we need to or don't need to be in when a time-locked event is meant to occur in our life? I don't know. I know it gets kind of deep when you get into that, but let's get back to our premonitions.
American Airlines Flight 191. For 10 evenings in a row in 1970, David Booth had the same bad dream. While deep down in rest, he saw a jetliner veering off a runway, flipping totally over, and after that blasting into flames. Booth felt compelled to inform the FAA about his dreams. Officials actually listened to what he had to say.
Which I think is an equally amazing part of this case file, because most of the time if a person called the FAA and said, I've been having dreams about this or that, they would probably hang up the phone and call the psychiatric ward, at least nowadays. But it's really amazing that they took him seriously.
And concluded that he was dreaming of a Boeing 727 or perhaps a DC-10 plane. On the day David Booth had his last bad dream, American Airlines DC-10 Flight 191 crashed only a couple of minutes after takeoff.
Well, that's an interesting correlation, right? But wait, there's more.
One of the plane's motors broke loose, bringing about an imbalance. The plane flipped on the runway and burst into flames. All 273 passengers aboard died.
Unfortunately, the premonition wasn't actually able to save anybody this particular time, but they did take it seriously, which is something you don't hear very often. And he did see what was going to happen before it happened, at least in my opinion.
So this one girl had a dream when she was in grade 5 about her friend's grandmother's funeral. She described it in perfect detail, saying how her grandmother was holding foxglove flowers, that there were gold stars on the turquoise church ceiling, and she even recalled a conversation that happened between two women in the church's stairwell. Now, the friend did not believe her, since this girl had never even met her grandmother, and because her grandmother was still in perfect health. A few months later, her friend told her that her grandmother had died, and that the funeral unfolded exactly how she described it. Every detail was accurate. That's crazy. crazy.
The amount of detail that the person provided and the fact that it panned out exactly that way, that's incredible to me. There's no way somebody can just guess that much that many times. And yes, it's anecdotal, I'll give it that, but it's still just one of many, many stories that we hear. And the only real theme is things were known before they should have been linearly known.
We have a premonition from Abraham Lincoln himself.
This is one of my favorite case files, and I believe we've mentioned it on the show before, maybe once or twice actually, but if you haven't heard it already, ladies and gentlemen, check this out. Old Honest Abe himself.
In 1847 to 1865, Lincoln's friend and bodyguard, Ward Hill Lamon, wrote a biography of him in his honor. In this biography, Ward wrote about a premonition that Lincoln had 3 days before his death and that he shared with Ward. Apparently, Lincoln had a dream where he felt deathly still and all he could hear was the sounds of people weeping. When he wandered downstairs in his dream, he came across a corpse surrounded by soldiers and tons of visitors. He then asked the soldiers who was dead, and he said, "The president. He was killed by an assassin." 3 days later, Abraham Lincoln was killed by John Wilkes Booth. So not only did Abe have a sick beard, but in fact predicted his own death.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Abraham Lincoln predicted his own death through a dream, even the way in which it would occur. So really intriguing once again. Just so many cases over and over and over, but they don't always have to be negative, right? All we've heard so far tonight is a lot of negative cases where the premonitions could have, or in some cases did, save lives from a negative event. But it doesn't always have to be a negative event, does it? Just because it's a premonition or precognition, it could actually be for something good, right? You don't hear enough stories about that because that's not what sells most of the time. It's this scary negative stuff. But there are some really interesting good stories where precognition led to a change in one's life for the better, and not in a negative impact either way. Check this out. Our next case file is a really positive one that I really like. A little bit of twisting and turning down along this one, but it's definitely a fun one. Check this out, guys.
Fateh Ozcan, United Kingdom. Fateh was a waiter at a Turkish restaurant in York, in the northeast of the UK. Fateh had a dream that he was showing his manager, Hayati Kokokolu, his lottery winnings, and was holding it out in front of him. He was so convinced by his dream that the next day he persuaded his manager to enter the lottery.
Would you, if you had a dream that you won the lottery and had this big handful of money in front of you, especially if you got the numbers right, it didn't say you got the numbers, but just that you won the lottery at all and you had this big handful of money, would you go to the store the next day and buy a lottery ticket? I don't know, I might. I don't play lottery that often, but if I had some kind of weird incident like that, I think I'd follow it. What about you guys? Go ahead, put a 1 in the chat room if you would follow the dream and go to get a lottery ticket. Put a 2 if you would just brush it off as another dream and not waste your money on something as crazy as the lottery. And put a 3 if you're really undecided on that.
Where they went to the supermarket and purchased the ticket. To their utter amazement, their numbers came up, and they won the equivalent of $1.7 million.
Remember, this came from a dream that he had the money to begin with.
But this is where their troubles began, when the owner decided, because the money came out of his till, it was his money, and refused to share the winnings. Fateh was enraged because it was not for his dream of them winning the lottery. His manager would not have bought a ticket. Fateh decided to take matters further and took the manager to court.
And this is where the story really starts to get twisty and turny, because you really never know where the judge is going to land, right? You never know what the court's going to say. And I see a pretty mixed bag in the chat over there. Kind of expected that. And like I said, you never know what's going to happen as far as a court case, because they could decide either way, right? maybe the money was just symbolic, that they would just win it. He might not necessarily, have it in real life. Maybe it's more of a symbolism thing, right? Maybe it would trickle down in the job instead. Maybe it would lead to a better, there's so much more symbology that could be there, right? Never know.
At a hearing in London, Judge Mark Gosnell said, "I cannot see why he would be so determined to make his employer play if it was not directly to benefit. It is much more likely that he would badger his employer for hours if his dream was that they had played together, and he needed his employer to play for the dream to come true."
Which, as we know by the dream, that it didn't exactly involve his manager having to purchase the ticket. He was showing the money to the manager, so he didn't necessarily need him to win according to the dream. I really like this judge, by the way. He's actually including this as evidence in the case. I like that.
But Kukukokolu insisted the money was all his. However, the judge disagreed, saying because the plaintiff was a strong believer in the power of dreams, he interpreted his own dream to mean that he and Ms. Kokolu would win the lottery.
A judgment ruling that, like I said, I really like and I agree with, but it gets better.
The judge then viewed a surveillance tape showing the men buying the ticket and picking the numbers together. The judge then summarised by saying, "I find that the effect of these conversations was that Mr. Kokokokolu and Mr. Ozcan entered into a contract to jointly play the lottery on an equal basis." The court ruled Fateh Ozcan would receive half of the $1.7 million, where each share came to just over $850,000.
So in the end, he got his big old handful of money to wave in front of his manager, albeit maybe a little spiteful because he did win, and it was tried to take from him. But just the same, the dream led to him in the end ending up with a large amount of money from the lottery win. So that is really incredible. And it's just one of many dreams that, once again, are precognitions or premonitions that lead to a positive outcome and not necessarily a negative or disastrous warning, right?
Mary Sanderson, United States. Mary was a telephone operator who lived in Manchester, New Hampshire, with her husband Jason. Mary claimed that one night she had a dream where winning numbers in a lottery came to her in that dream. Mary woke up the following morning with the 6 numbers in her head that she immediately wrote down.
Wow, when I made the joke about actually getting the numbers earlier, I didn't realize there was a story coming up about actually getting the numbers. So what do you know there? Another synchronicity. Something else that happens quite a bit on this show, right, guys? But yeah, this lady not only dreamt of the lottery, she dreamt of the numbers. Would you play the lottery then if you actually had the numbers? I don't know if I would trust myself or not on that. I'd probably go play them just for the fact that the numbers showed up as lottery numbers, just to prove myself wrong, right? That's probably what I would do. I'd go play the numbers just to prove myself wrong and never know what the outcome is, right? Well, let's see what the outcome is for Mary Sanders.
Later that day, she went to a store in Manchester and purchased a Powerball ticket with the numbers 3, 5, 13, 18, 45, and the Powerball was 20. When the numbers were announced, Mary was shocked when she found that her dream had come true and the numbers had been called out. She'd won the multi-state lottery, claiming $66 million. After winning, Mary immediately quit her job, but her husband Jason said he would keep his job as a printer. Jason also had a hobby where he wrestled for charity under the name The Wolfman. He decided he would also continue to wrestle for charity under that name.
That is nothing short of incredible. To get numbers in your dream and go play them and actually win that specific set of numbers. The universe literally talking to you, right? A precognition, a premonition of something good to come, right? It doesn't always have to be a disaster. And there's stories like that that really kind of lift you up, right? Really kind of make your day just a little bit better, right?
Isanullah Khan, Pakistan. Isanula was raised by subsistence farmers in a hut in the poor Himalayan town of Buttagram. When he was 18, he obtained a visa to work in America and went first to Chicago and later to Washington, D.C. For the next 20 years, he worked very hard in 2 jobs as a security guard and a taxi driver. When he first started working in those jobs, he had dreamt the following numbers: 2, 4, 6, 17, 25, 31, and regularly played those numbers for the following 10 years, hoping that one day his luck would change.
So this wasn't exactly an overnight thing. He played the lottery for 10 years with these same numbers.
Fortunately for Isanula, that lucky day came when he found out that his dream finally came true and that he'd won $55 million Powerball jackpot using those numbers that had come to him in a dream. When he found out, he gave one last cab ride for free. He bought himself a Mercedes 600 and a couple of $1 million mansions in Virginia and Islamabad. However, he was not content to sit on his wealth and decided to return to Pakistan and get involved in politics, where he then returned to his hometown and ran for mayor, and won. Shortly afterwards, his country experienced a catastrophic earthquake which took the lives of more than 70,000 people. Isanula brought in medical personnel, food, water and medicine to help his fellow countrymen. It is good to see that when life gave him a break, he was also to pay back some of that luck.
And I know a lot of you are thinking, well, yeah, after 10 years, God knows how many tries that is, eventually going to get it. No, not really. With that many numbers to choose from, especially when you get into double numbers like 11, 12, 13, 14, so on and so forth, that becomes next to impossible in one lifetime. As a matter of fact, if you have 5 numbers, 1 through 60, and you got to choose the 5 that's going to win, that could take upwards sometimes of 100 lifetimes. And if you think I'm off on that, think about this. A 6-letter password, randomized password, would take the regular human at least 100 lifetimes to crack. That is how powerful they are. Now, computers can do it much more quickly, yes, but the average human just trying to guess it, and based on just the keyboard and the numbers we've gotten, 6 of those perfectly in the right order would take a person, like I said, probably 100 lifetimes. So the statistics are still on the guy's side that it had to be a little bit more than just a coinky-dink. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the clock's got us, so we got to go ahead and take a network break right here, and we'll be right back with the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show right after these messages. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
We got to stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Yes! The weekend has officially begun. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. Isn't it great that we get to kick off the weekend right on Wednesday nights? Thanks to Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show. We'll be back to Precognition, tonight's subject, in just a moment. And Jerry will return tomorrow night with an extreme look at the Travis Walton case. That's February 18th, 2021, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Come along with Jerry as he howls in the Dark Wolf's Den. Then Friday night, February 19th, so many ways to get rich quick. What works and what's a scam? Come along with me and we'll find out. This is a repeat of the show that was supposed to take place last week, but due to no internet and the technical difficulties that we had last weekend, we were unable to bring that to you. So we're going to repeat Get Rich Quick this Friday night. Then Saturday night, come along and explore the rabbit hole and the mysteries of Stonehenge. Yeah, that rock formation circular thing that everybody talks about. It's shrouded in mystery, and we're going to dive deep down the rabbit hole and explore it together. Saturday night, February 20th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and then we'll end out the weekend right together, Sunday, February 21st, with Secrets to Know. That's right, we're going to talk about ways and the secrets that we can say no. And when is it most important to say no? That should end out the weekend just right together. Now, if you haven't done so already, please jump on over to the riponrabbithole.com. That's RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. There you can jump on our mail list. We'll send you out our weekend schedule every Wednesday morning. You can sign up for a free Backstage VIP pass. It's going to give you a lot of extra access to some bonus features like the groups. You're going to want to make sure that you check out the Mandela Effect groups. I know there's one set up back there for IMEC, the International Mandela Effect Conference. Something tells me that group is about to get really busy really soon, as the convention is not that far away. And we can't wait to find out the details of that. And of course, the founder, Jerry Hicks, your host this evening, has his own group as well as the Mandela Effect IMEC group. So you want to jump over to the Ripon Rabbit Hole. Make sure that you join the Dark Wolf's Den Show group and the International Mandela Effect Conference group. We'll return now to tonight's episode of the Dark Wolf's Den, right here on the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. As always, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up tonight's video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live.
This is My Life DIY, and
Hi, this is JoJo. Hi, my name is Oz.
Hey everybody, it's AJ the Ripon Rabbit.
This is Cynthia Sue Larson.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light.
And you're now listening
to Dark Wolf's Den.
The Dark Wolf's Den Show on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den radio show for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about precognition and premonitions. We've heard quite a few case files in the first half, but what does science have to say about it, right? Not necessarily scientism, but science itself. What does it have to say on the subject of precognition?
Nearly all of us have experienced intuitive hunches or gut feelings about things yet to unfold.
You know, that's another aspect of precognition, I guess you'd say. Like you pull up to a stop sign, right? And you want to turn left, but you just have this really bad feeling all of a sudden. And instead you go right. And then you find out if you would have went left, you would have probably been involved in some big accident or something bad that had happened along that route that you had no way of knowing, right? I've heard plenty of stories like that. Or you just get a funny feeling when the light turns green and you don't go when someone comes barreling through a red light and you would have been in an accident. Or just so many times we get these sensations beforehand. And of course that's called pseudoscience and that's laughed at, but is that really the case? Is it really pseudoscience, or is there perhaps some experiments that may back up this idea?
Some believe they've glimpsed the future in their dreams. Others describe a profound sense of timelessness during meditation. Do these experiences suggest that the mind extends beyond the present moment?
And if you were with us for the January series of episodes, Consciousness, then you know that a lot of that has to do with the idea that consciousness affects the outside world. But we kind of touched on the idea that consciousness and the soul itself may actually be timeless, and there may be a way through the quote-unquote ether to determine through consciousness what is about to occur. If a person can feel you staring at them or thinking about them from hundreds and hundreds of miles, then the ideas like sensing something about to happen all of a sudden doesn't become such a odd thing, right?
Or are they just illusions? Once again, scientists have designed experiments to find out. Throughout the 20th century, most precognition experiments invited participants to predict the outcome of a future event, like a randomly selected picture, card, or dice throw.
And most of you might be familiar with the set of cards with like the squiggly lines and the triangle and the square. They used them in Ghostbusters, of course, and these have been used many, many times to try to prove and or disprove psychic ability, as well as trying to predict dice rolls, things of that nature. That would be very dangerous to Vegas, wouldn't it?
Applying statistical analysis to the guesses, researchers looked to see if their participants had scored higher than was predicted by chance.
Chance, generally speaking, would be 50-50. You would have a 50% chance of getting it right or wrong, right? So, generally speaking, if you were just guessing, after enough tries, it would come out as 50-50, 50 right, 50 wrong, for instance, or 50% right, 50% wrong. So let's see what the studies actually gleaned.
An overview of all precognitive experiments reported between 1935 and 1987 concluded that a real effect had been observed.
So I'm going to repeat that just because it's so important. So all the tests run between 1935 and 1987, an overview of all the data showed that there is a definite something going on, a definite statistical anomaly that needs to be accounted for.
In recent decades, the focus of precognition research has shifted to the unconscious.
And I love this because that takes us right back to Carl Jung's work in the collective unconscious, right? Could there be an unconscious ability that we have that has to do with precognition, something that's beyond our control that naturally occurs within us, the ability to have precognitive moments, if you will?
One approach looks at unconscious changes in people's nervous system. If precognition exists, the nervous system might react just prior to being exposed to a sudden stimulus.
So that seems simple enough, the ability to sense something coming in reality before it happens.
In these experiments, participants are presented with a series of images, some of which are highly emotional, intended to cause a dramatic psychological response. These could be graphic images of surgery or accident scenes. Contrasting these are calmer images, featuring mundane scenes like textures on furniture.
So you've got two different sets of pictures, highly emotionally charged stimuli, like he said, from car crashes to things that would definitely get your attention and if not shocking, then, it would have an emotional stimulus attached to it. So the pictures are interwoven with neutral pictures, just pictures of color or furniture or just something without any real emotional stimuli attachment, right? And these are randomly interwoven throughout the system, and the person has to guess before the picture comes up or is even determined in the system what it is going to be.
The results of these experiments, which were first carried out by Dean Radin, show that physiological arousal is indeed slightly higher just before an emotional image appears on the screen.
And arousal in this case just being the fact that it was a response was given by the nervous system before the picture was ever even chosen to be shown on the screen.
Braden terms this mysterious sensitivity to future events presentiment. In response to these surprising findings, Professor Dick Bierman at the University of Amsterdam conducted a series of experiments using a nearly identical design.
Now, this is something else that scientism usually beats over the head and calls us pseudoscientists with, is that they claim that the experiments aren't reproducible, that the outcomes aren't reproducible, which makes it look like the researcher faked the data, right? If you can reproduce an experiment, then you really have shown clear evidence that even scientism itself has to accept. Well, it don't have to, but is a lot more likely to accept. Let me put it like that. But let's see if the experiment was actually repeatable, if this was just a one-off occurrence.
Bierman's study was also remarkably successful, producing very similar results.
Wow, now that's pretty incredible. Not only was the first experiment done and results verified, but then it's repeated independently and the results still match the first one. That shows a significant difference and a real effect occurring.
Since then, presentiment research has continued in a number of independent labs, and the effect has been reported in a range of biological processes, including skin conductance, heart rate, brainwaves, and pupil dilation.
So it seems that more than the nervous system reacts, it looks like the entire body reacts depending on the stimulus. If it would be a fight or flight picture, for instance, or if whether it be a calming love picture, the body's reacting moments before the stimulus is even chosen in the system. I cannot reiterate that part enough. The system hasn't even made its random choice yet, and the human body is already showing response to the stimuli or lack thereof, depending what the computer is about to choose.
In a later report, Bierman also found evidence of presentiment in mainstream studies that had been originally designed to test other variables. Precognitive experiences have been reported throughout history. They remain a part of modern culture. They found their way into our language and our stories. Many of us have learnt to pay close attention to feelings that point to future events. The presentiment studies offer supportive evidence that our perceptions transcend the familiar boundaries of time.
How do you like that, ladies and gentlemen? Even science itself has backed up the claim that presentiment, precognition, premonition, whatever word you want to use for it, definitely exist even in laboratory settings. You can't beat that, right? I couldn't make this stuff up if I had to. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Pure scientific evidence repeated over and over and over. And one more thing I'd like to do before we get out of here tonight. I'd like to play one more of these happy premonitions.
Peter lived with his young family in Perth, Western Australia, and at the time was the director in an office supply company. In March 1994, he heard about a competition on a local radio station where the prize was an overseas trip to Germany to see Rod Stewart, Joe Cocker, Tina Turner and Prince.
That right there sounds like the dream concert for me, right? I love every last one of those performers, at least their music anyway.
And then on to London to see 4 Andrew Lloyd Webber shows.
See, that would make the vacation of vacations for me. I would be in heaven if I would have won a prize like that.
Peter decided to try his luck and enter the competition. A short time after entering the competition, he had a hazy dream that he had won the overseas trip. Then a few days later, he had a second dream that appeared more credible. And then a week later, he had a third dream. And on that occasion, the dream had become much clearer and more detailed. In that third dream, he was standing at the fax machine when his work partner had answered the phone call from the radio station to advise Peter that he'd won the trip. Peter felt the dream to be so real that he quickly decided to renew his passport to ensure he was able to take the trip.
I gotta say, that's a pretty confident move to be renewing your passport, but he's already had this dream multiple times, right? I mean, at that point, even I might start thinking, just maybe the universe is telling me something, right?
He then went to the chemist to arrange for the passport renewal, and the woman he spoke to was a friend of his wife. She asked him where they were going, and he said, "Well, I've entered a competition on the radio, and the prize was a trip to Germany and London, and I expect to win it," because he was so certain about his dream. She looked at him strangely, believing he was crazy. He later went to the post office to fill out more paperwork and relayed the same story and got the same reaction, that they believed he was insane. It was just wishful thinking.
Let's be honest, isn't that what you would think, right? If your buddy told you, look, I entered this contest on the radio and I know I'm going to win. No doubt about it, I'm the one that's going to win. I mean, you would, celebrate with your friend and kind of dream along just in case. But, I mean, come on. Honestly, there's not a one of us that would honestly believe that's actually going to happen. We would hope, don't get me wrong, we wouldn't hope against our friend, I would like to think. I wouldn't. But most of us in the back of our mind are going, yeah, okay, wishful thinking, like he said here. But then again, maybe it isn't always just wishful thinking. Maybe the intent itself had something to do with it, right? I don't know, but let's hear what happens.
By the time the competition was announced on the radio, they'd had 30,000 entries, and his odds of winning the competition were overwhelming and extremely unlikely.
And I can tell you those odds are 1 in 30,000. He has one chance out of all 30,000 people that have entered the contest. And let's see how lucky he was.
However, Peter's third dream was about to come true when he was standing at the fax machine and the phone rang, and his work partner then answered the phone. It was accurate and detailed, just like his dream. The call was from the radio station advising Peter that he'd won the overseas trip. The radio announcer was surprised that Peter took the call so calmly and was astounded when Peter told him that although he was extremely excited, he was not too surprised because he was expecting the call.
And once again, the amazing part of this, aside from the fact that he actually won the 1 in 30,000 chance, but that's not impossible odds. It's highly unlikely, but it's not 100% impossible. Somebody has to win, right? There's got to be that one. Why not him, right? However, for it to play out exactly like he dreamed of receiving the phone call with his partner on the work partner on the fax machine and, all of that playing out like he had dreamt of, that's just a little bit beyond chance, right? And for multiple stories we've heard this tonight, multiple anecdotes we've heard, this dreaming exact details of something before it happens. But what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think precognition is possible and the human body has the ability to have premonitions, right? To have reactions to stimuli before it ever occurs, like the scientific studies have actually found, which blows my mind. But think about it, it could be from a evolution standpoint, and I don't necessarily follow either evolution or creation, but from that standpoint, we could have had this ability to survive in general, right? It'd be a lot easier to survive if you can sense the panther behind you. And I think I've used this example many times before, but it's kind of that precognition, right? That sensing of something else there. Maybe not even physically sensing it so much as that precog notion that something may be happening to keep you on your toes just a little bit more and help you survive, right? That could definitely be just an evolutionary trait that we've refused to admit to. But what do you think? Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, do you think precognition or premonition is something that every one of us have the ability to do? Or do you think we might be barking up the wrong tree? In the end, ladies and gentlemen, all you got to do is look at all the evidence, apply a little bit of common sense, and then you be the judge. We got to close it out. That's right. That's it for this episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Show for Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. The den may be closing for tonight, but don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back tomorrow, Thursday, February 18th, 2021, to continue kicking off the weekend right with an all-new episode of the Dark Wolf's Den Radio Show. That's right. Tomorrow night, we're going to do a deep dive down the rabbit hole of the Travis Walton case. That's right. If you ever heard of the movie Fire in the Sky, we're going to hear the actual story from the man himself, Mr. Travis Walton, tomorrow night, Thursday, February 18th, 2021, on the Dark Wolf's Den Show. That's right. Then, on Friday, February 19th, 2021, make sure you come back to the Ripon Rabbit Hole and Ripon Common Sense Radio for our network partner, the other animal radio here on the network, Mr. AJ the Ripon Rabbit. That's right. On Friday night, he's going to try to tackle Get Rich Quick once again, ladies and gentlemen. Last week there were some technical difficulties, that's right, and he wasn't able to do the show. So he has rescheduled it for this coming Friday, February 19th, 2021. What is very important about this is the ability to look out for the get-rich-quick schemes and not become a victim to them. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check that out on Friday. Then on Saturday, February 20th, 2021, AJ the Ripon Rabbit will be back to discuss Stonehenge. The rabbit hole goes really deep on that one, and you definitely do not want to miss that. I don't think that deserves or really needs any introduction, ladies and gentlemen. Stonehenge on Saturday, February 20th, 2021, on the Ripon Rabbit Hole Live Show. Then on Sunday, February 21st, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows here on the network are 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. And on Sunday's show, he'll be talking about the secrets to no. That's right, you need to know the secrets to saying no. It's not always an easy thing to do. Trust me, I should know. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you come check that out. We all need a lesson in how to say no from time to time. That's right. That's Sunday, February 21st, 2021, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. And while you are waiting in between shows, make sure you hop on over to the riponrabbithole.com. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, that is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. While you're over there, you need to do a couple things. First, you need to sign up for the newsletter. This is very important. Every Wednesday, you will receive one newsletter from us with all the topics we'll be discussing on the network all weekend long. We have the longest weekend in radio. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 5-day weekends and 2-day work weeks. That's just the way we like it. Anyway, make sure you sign up for that newsletter and get that in your inbox. We do not sell your information. We only use that information to send you one newsletter a week. We do not spam your inbox, and you will not ever have to worry about that from us. And then while you're over at the riponrabbithole.com, also make sure you sign up for your Backstage Pass and unlock all the magic features of the site. What features, you ask? Well, we've got our own social media alternative over there, Down the Rabbit Hole. That's right, where all the rabbits go to discuss many variety of topics, and the conversation never ends down the rabbit hole. And speaking of conversation, if you want to come have a conversation with me after the show, it's really easy to do. You can find me in the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. That's right. just click the 24/7 Backstage Lounge. Once you've got your Backstage Pass, scroll down to the VIP entrance and come on in. We would love to have you along for the ride. Speaking of being along for the ride, quick shout out to Ripon, Wisconsin, and everybody listening over there, as well as everybody listening across the entire world in all 49 countries. We appreciate every last one of you guys, as well as everyone over on YouTube. And huge shout out once again, like we do every week, to our amazing mod team over there. We're so proud to have every last one of you guys helping us out. You do a wonderful job every last week, and thank every last one of you that comes back week after week to hear this show and to enjoy the topics, and hopefully we are able to get some deep thinking going on, at least for a little while. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Chick Mandela Effect, Michael Musco, Walt House, AJ the Ripon Rabbit, everybody at Ripon Common Sense Radio, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And remember, until next time, stay awake, but dare to dream. Good night, everybody. How? Yeah. That's right.
I'm lost and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever home. Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. Oh, what a sinner, is it in her? What's the truth in this riddle? Is love really just this simple? I can't seem to find my way in this world that never stays. What a widow, a peaceful spider. When the glass is clean, she's a sneaky hider. Hide the lies and the alibis. What a sinner, is it in her? Is this real? Just illusion? I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. I'm lost in wonderland of confusion. Is this real or just illusion? Manifestation or a dark delusion? Is this real or just illusion? I'm lost in a wonderland of confusion.